Welcome, welcome, welcome. And to all who are watching, enter if you dare. What I'm about to read to you is not fiction. It is sourced from official police incident reports, fire department records, first-hand testimony recorded on magnetic tape, 40 hours of it, and the personal statements of men and women who dedicated their lives to protecting the public and telling the truth. This is the file on 966 Lindley Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut. November 1974. Bridgeport, Connecticut is an old city, a working-class city, the kind of place where people know their neighbors, where houses sit close together, and where the sound of something breaking in the middle of the night carries through the walls and reaches the street. The Goodin family, Gerard, his wife Laura, their 10-year-old adopted daughter Marcia, and their cat Sam, had lived at 966 Lindley Street for years without incident. That is what the file says. Before November of 1974. Gerard worked in the city. Laura kept the house. Marcia went to school. They attended church on Sundays. They were a quiet, ordinary family in a quiet, ordinary neighborhood, and nothing in any of their histories suggested that what was about to happen to them was possible. By November 2nd, 1974, none of that mattered anymore. Laura Goodin was the first to notice something wrong. Objects moved when no one touched them. Small things at first. A glass that had shifted across the kitchen counter to a position she was certain it had not been in. A chair found in the wrong room. A crucifix hanging slightly crooked when she was certain she had straightened it the night before. She told herself it was stress. She told herself it was the cat. Then, on the night of November 2nd, the picture of Jesus and the crucifix beside it flew off the wall. Not fell, flew horizontally, with force, as if thrown by an unseen hand, and struck the opposite wall hard enough to leave marks in the plaster. Gerard called the police. The officers who arrived at 966 Lindley Street that first night expected to find a domestic dispute, a misunderstanding, a frightened family, and a logical explanation waiting for them at the door. What they found instead became the most documented supernatural event in American police history. Officer John Costello was among the first on scene. His report, filed the following morning, reads, and I am quoting directly from the document, "While present in the residence, I witnessed a large refrigerator lift approximately 6 inches off the kitchen floor and move laterally without human contact. No explanation could be determined. He was not alone in the room. 3 other officers witnessed it. Over the next 72 hours, what the Goodins would later call the weekend from hell descended on 966 Lindley Street. Word spread quickly. The neighbors came first, drawn by the flashing lights and the sound of something crashing inside. Then the reporters, then more police, shift after shift, officers coming at the end of their hours and not wanting to leave. Word traveled through the fire stations, the church, the city government, and the things that could not be explained began happening in front of all of them, without apology, without pause, in full light. A heavy oak dresser slid across the bedroom floor while 3 police officers stood against the far wall, hands raised, not touching it. Chairs overturned by themselves, lamps spun in their sockets. A television set, not a small one, moved across the living room floor on its own and crashed against the opposite wall, hard enough to damage the baseboard. Laura Goodin was thrown against a wall by something none of the witnesses could see. She had bruises on her back and shoulder consistent with the impact. Gerard was knocked off his feet in a hallway while standing completely alone. By the time it was over, more than 120 people had entered that house and witnessed activity they could not explain. Not tourists, not thrill seekers, a police lieutenant, a police captain, 2 fire chiefs, police officers from multiple shifts, firefighters, 2 Catholic priests who had been called to perform a blessing and left shaken, neighbors who had lived on that street for 30 years, a reporter from the local paper who filed a story he said he did not know how to write. These were not people looking to believe in ghosts. These were people whose careers, whose entire professional identities depended on not believing in them. The Catholic priests who entered the home to bless it reported that their prayer beads moved without being touched during the blessing. One of them refused to enter a second time. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in. Ed Warren had spent decades investigating alleged hauntings across the country. He had seen things faked and things he could not fake. He walked into 966 Lindley Street, spent hours in the building, reviewed the testimonies, and came back out with these words. In 40 years of investigation, this is the most well-documented haunting I have ever encountered. The evidence is not anecdotal. There are police reports, there are photographs, there are witnesses whose credibility is beyond question. The police department eventually issued a public statement. Bridgeport Police Superintendent Joseph Walsh told the press that the haunting was a hoax. His evidence: an officer had once observed Marcia, the 10-year-old girl, attempting to tip over a television set. Under pressure, Marcia said she had caused all of it. But there is a problem with that statement. Multiple problems, in fact, and they are all documented in the file. Poltergeist activity had been witnessed by police officers while Marcia was not in the room, while she was outside the house, while she was in full view of multiple witnesses on the other side of the room from the object that moved. A 10-year-old child cannot throw a refrigerator. A 10-year-old child cannot bruise her mother from across a hallway. And the activity did not stop after Marcia's confession. It continued for 3 more weeks, diminishing slowly before stopping altogether. The family eventually left 966 Lindley Street. They did not go back. 40 hours of recorded testimony sit in a private archive. Police reports from the Bridgeport Police Department remain in the public record. Photographs exist. The medical documentation of Laura Goodin's bruises exists. And still, officially, it was a hoax perpetrated by a 10-year-old girl. I have read this file, all of it, every page, and I want you to consider one thing before I close it. A police lieutenant, a captain, 2 fire chiefs, multiple sworn officers across multiple shifts, 2 priests, over 100 other witnesses. These are people who could lose their careers, their pensions, their professional reputations for publicly claiming they saw a refrigerator float off the floor in a Connecticut bungalow. They said it anyway. The Bridgeport Police Department never officially reopened the case. I am the Archivist, and this is Blood-Curdling Chronicles. There are files like this one that most people never find. Cases buried beneath official explanations that do not quite hold. Witnesses who told the truth and were told they were mistaken. Events that happened in front of dozens of credible observers and were quietly sealed away and labeled impossible. The archive is full of them, and I am going to keep opening them, one by one. If you want to be here when I do, subscribe, hit the bell, because the next file is already on my desk and it is darker than this one. Stay close. The Archivist will find you.
If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be notified of all of our future videos.